I'd like to welcome everybody here this morning. It's such an amazing turnout in the room here, and we have lots of people online, I know, as well, so welcome to everybody who's online as well. We've got a very ambitious agenda this morning. We're going to be covering a lot of issues, including the university's 2019-20 operating plan. We're going to be having a short discussion about the vision for the next 25 years, and that's going to make for a pretty full 2 hours. So we need, I think, to get underway. And again, thank you all for coming out. But to start the morning, I really would like to begin with a prayer and a welcome, and I will ask Asma and Shirley to come to the stage. Thank you.
Creator, Great Spirit, thank you for each one here as we gather in this circle. Thank you for this day and every day, for our breath of life, this land we stand on. Thank you for the blessings in every day, the majestic trees, the blooming flowers, Charlie's Trail. Thank you for the waters and mountains and all creatures that live there. Thank you for our winged ones, large and small. Thank you for the sounds of nature, the rustling wind, the drops of rain, billowy clouds. Creator, Great Spirit, thank you for families in our communities and our children in our communities. Thank you for all teachers, mentors, elders who help us on our walk on earth, so that one day we will have peace and harmony on earth and Mother Earth, with Mother Earth and one another. Haitzlatitasia.
Chu, Kleko, thank you, Shirley. I'm always grateful for your friendship. I am. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to those who are online. Let's begin our day. I want to welcome you to the traditional lands of Kwasapsan, Esquimalt Nation. I also want to acknowledge Hereditary Chief Edward Thomas. I also want us to take a moment of silence. On April 7th is the 1-year anniversary of the passing of Hereditary Chief Andy Thomas. Hereditary Chief Andy Thomas, one of his last words to me today was, our thinking of him today is, don't quit. And boy, this morning, I have been so just thinking about the critique I've been getting in the last hour from different folks. I arrived to my office and I arrived to a letter saying, your welcomes are way too long, if you could shorten them. And I was thinking, you know what? I've been silenced, my ancestors have been silenced for over 150 years due to colonization. No, I do not want to be silenced, and I will take the time I need, and I hope you all respect that. I also want to welcome you to Lekwungen Songhees Nation, and I want to acknowledge elected chief Ron Sam. Thinking about who I am, where I come from, brings back the teachings from Senator Murray Sinclair. Senator Murray Sinclair gave the teachings about where I come from, really acknowledging that. Who's your ancestors? Where are they? So my name, Asmanahai, comes from my late mother, Vera Thompson's family from Tokwat Nation of New Channel Lands. My last name, Antoine, comes from my late father, Eugene Antoine, from Sycas Nation, from Carrier-Sicani lands. That's where I come from. I stand here with the ancestors of the roots, and I think about of their teachings and who they are. I also want to talk about Murray Sinclair's where are we going? Not where are you going tomorrow, where are you going next week, but where are you going later? And he talks about that, the creation story, but the death, what happens after you die. And then I thought about that, and I've shared stories before about where I hope to go when I die. And this is the prominent teaching that Indigenous people fight for their lands because their ancestors are buried in those lands. We are part of the land. We are the land. And so I need to remember to be mindful of that. Then purpose, intention. Why am I here? Thinking about that third teaching, why am I here? What's my purpose, intention? Is those protocol teachings, is those values and beliefs and morals and ethics that gets me from where I came from to where I'm going? And thinking about that here at Railroads University, being manager of Indigenous Education and Student Services, what does that mean? And so doing this one sign of protocol, thinking about protocol today, thinking about purpose and intention, which I'll get into way later. And then who am I is the stronger question. Thinking about who am I is that ongoing transformation and growth that we do each and every day, and those teachings that we give each and every day. And I am full of gratitude to belong to family, to belong to the Railroads University family. And not everyone loves that term, and that's okay. To Railroads University family, friends, and colleagues. So thank you again for letting me do this protocol. Thank you for inviting me to this. And I do have a gift for Shirley to thank her for coming in to give us and open us up with a prayer. Thank you, everyone. Have a good morning.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you. Well, thank you, Shirley, for that beautiful prayer. I always look forward to hearing from you. And Asma, your welcomes are never too long. Never. And thank you again. I had a colleague here yesterday, former president of the University of Guelph, and he had the opportunity to be in a meeting where Asma provided a welcome, and he said to me that there's an extraordinary quality to the welcomes that Asma gives to people who come and visit here. And we're incredibly honored to work and to learn on the lands of the Kasapsan and the Lekwungen people. So thank you so much for all of that. And again, just another welcome to all of you who've come out this morning, and to everybody online. It's been nearly 100 days, an amazing 100 days. I'm still here, which is a good sign. But I've just been so struck by the incredible generosity of the Royal Roads community, or the Royal Roads family, as Asma calls them, and the generosity of your time and your attention. And today, of course, is no exception to that. But thank you for taking the time as I've begun this journey, and I've begun to learn much more about this Royal Roads family. I'd like to pay a special welcome. I'm not going to single people out, but a special welcome to the new staff we have, new faculty and new staff we have. I know there are a few in the room, so welcome to all of you. You're joining an amazing place. In terms of what we're doing today, I'm just going to have a few opening remarks just about observations of the last 3 months. Bonnie's going to give us a quick update on the installation. Cheryl's going to present on the operating plan, which sort of tells you, where we're at now. And we took this to board last week and got it approved. And then the majority of the time we're going to spend today is going to be on the vision and the work that's underway. The chance for us together at this launch to look back over the past 25 years and look ahead to the next 25 years, and really ask that question, where do we want to go? Who do we want to be in 25 years' time? So I just want to thank everybody for all the work that's gone on over the last 3 months. I've been hugely struck by the dedication and the commitment and the effort of everybody at the university, and the initiatives are far too many to mention, but it's been an extraordinarily busy time. I did mention to the board last week that, on the occasion that I've popped in on the weekends to pick something up or, to do something, I often notice that there are people here at work, which is just a testament, I think, to the dedication. And I've also had an amazing opportunity to spend time in the grounds and the gardens of this incredible place and running into the remarkable team who maintain grounds and gardens here, and many of you who take the opportunity to go and refresh and reset. And that's just one of the amazing opportunities that we have in this incredible place. I've gotten to know so many of you over the last few months. I'm hoping if we haven't personally met that I'll have the opportunity to, but I recognize many faces. Fewer names, I'm sorry, but many faces. And for those of you who wear your name tags, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. But we have absolutely world-class teachers at this place. The faculty, of course, who are incredible. The faculty we have here, including the associate faculty, just been hugely impressed with the quality of faculty we have here, and again, their commitment and their dedication. The students I've run into, just incredible. I mean, the stories are just remarkable. And of course, the staff, amazing staff, amazing commitment that I see in every corner of this place. I've had the great opportunity to get out of the castle. I did tell you previously that my favorite times of day is when they let me out of the castle, right? And to go and meet people all across the campus in your various locations, and then also to have hosted a series of breakfasts as well. And those have been another great opportunity to get to talk to people. We do have an amazing team of people who support the operations of this university. Our maintenance and custodial staff just do incredible work. I've mentioned the gardeners and the groundskeepers, the production staff, all the folks in campus services. Just an amazing team. And colleagues who come to the university, when I take them on a tour and walk around, they just go, the sheer scale of this place just must be incredible to keep this up. And you keep it up so brilliantly and so well. And your deep understanding of what makes this place special and your passion for the work that you do is remarkable. The faculties, I've mentioned meeting faculty. I've had the opportunity to visit every single school, which has been fantastic, including the College of Interdisciplinary Studies as well. I've been to CTET too, and seen the remarkable work that they do. Folks in student services, the registrar's office in admissions, the IT folks who are at the furthest extreme of campus, which seems like an odd place to have your IT team, but anyway, we'll get to that. HR and finance, the business planning, the capital folks, the alumni, engagement, the advancement teams, the communications teams, really quite incredible. We've got people working in international and in market development, marketing, just across the board. Just great dedicated teams. And I'm finally getting a sense of the structure of the place and how things work. And it's been a great experience for me. Talking to students individually and into groups as well, and in groups, I've had sort of great opportunity to learn about the way in which this place truly does live up to its tagline, which is life-changing. So many students I've spoken to, or students who've sent me messages, unprompted, just about how transformative this place has been for them. And they speak with incredible passion about the faculty and the staff that they've met and the fellow students that they've met. And it's very moving. I've worked at a number of institutions. I've never encountered this kind of passion Normally when you get letters from students at other institutions, it's for other reasons. And here I would say the ratio of just people sending notes, just notes complimenting staff and faculty and the way in which this place has transformed their lives. The ratio of those to the complaints is 90 to 10. It's incredible. I've had the opportunity, and I mentioned this, I think, at the Lost Campus conversation, that I really wanted the opportunity to actually sit in on some classes, and I've been invited, and thank you for those invitations, and please keep them coming. But I've had the opportunity to welcome students and cohorts to residencies and to the beginning of their classes. I've also had the opportunity to address some classes as well. I was invited to come and talk about leveraging conflict, talking about my experience with the 2010 Olympics and also with treaty negotiations, and that was a fabulous interaction with students in that class. I listened to presentations, the students who were working on values-based leadership. That was incredible as well. Executive coaching, students working on community development. I had the opportunity to talk to them about my experience in Botswana, because they were heading there as one of 3 African countries where they were off to do some work. And I also joined an online class in higher education administration looking at trends in post-secondary education across Canada. So it's been just a fantastic opportunity to get a much better feel for how things work. And again, I'm hugely impressed with it. And kind of flummoxed in a way too, because I couldn't imagine how I would even begin designing a course in the way that courses are delivered here. Of course, we've got a fabulous resource in CTEP which assists with that, but kudos to all of you who do that work. I've had the opportunity, in addition to the internal community, to engage with the external community too. So moving not only out of the castle, but actually out of Royal Roads and into the community. And one of the most, I think, moving experiences I've had is the opportunity to meet with the elders, or as some of them prefer to be known as the old ones, who advise us here. And I've been down to Snequelum at ASMA's invitation to meet with them a couple of times. And their wisdom and insight continues to guide our path as we move forward. And it is such an honor to have that guidance and that support. A number of leaders from our communities have either been here or I've been to visit them. The Premier was here a couple of weeks ago, came for a visit, which was fantastic, with Mitzi Dean, who's the local member of the Legislative Assembly. And we had a great discussion about a topic which is very close to his heart, and that is expanding post-secondary access on the West Shore, and I'll give you a little bit of an update on where we're at with that. I met with the Minister of Advanced Education and the deputy there and many of her staff. I've had the opportunity to meet with the Governor General and the Lieutenant Governor as well in the last few weeks to talk about what we're doing here at Royal Roads, and they've all been hugely interested and impressed, and I look forward to a continuing engagement. Pedro and I met with Joyce Murray, who's the new president of the Federal Treasury Board last week, which again was a good opportunity for us to talk about what's going on in Royal Roads. And you do want to know and make good friends with the person who controls the purse strings federally. So, and I've known Minister Murray for some time, but it was nice to reconnect with her. I've met with the mayors and various chambers of commerce from around the region, colleagues from universities across BC and across the country, and I've had the great opportunity to talk to the media and the local media too. So it's been a really busy 100 days. So. I'm waiting for it to slow down a little bit, but no sign of that yet. So moving forward, as I mentioned, Cheryl's going to provide probably about a 10-minute overview of the operating plan, and we'll have an opportunity for some Q's and A's. I mean, just generally with our operating plan and our budget, I want to say that having worked at many institutions and having had oversight of many institutions, This university is in exceptionally good financial health. So again, congratulations to all of you, because it is a collective effort. And you will see that we have some very inspiring projects about to begin this year. And it's the budget and the resources that position us for this future. A couple of the initiatives, though, I'd like to mention. One is one I did refer to, and that's the West Shore initiative. You might be aware, although those of you who knew probably are not, but last year the university was given $250,000 to lead a needs assessment of post-secondary needs on the West Shore. We completed that report, and I submitted it to government a couple of weeks ago now, or about 10 days ago. It clearly demonstrates that there is a significant need for additional post-secondary access on the West Shore, particularly undergraduate access, and it demonstrates that pretty clearly. And I can tell you in confidence, well, it's probably how many people do we have online? That the government has sent a strong signal, and there will be an announcement shortly, that they're going to fund us for the next stage, which would be to develop a full business case for what that might look like. So just look out for that announcement. But this positions us, I think, exceptionally well. But there will be a lot of work to do on this, and some profound questions for us as an institution about where we're going and who we are and what our identity is, given that opportunity. My view is this is a pretty wide open discussion, and I really want to see how it aligns with the visioning work that we are doing. A couple of other things. There is ongoing work with the Department of National Defense on the status of the land here. And we've made, I think, some fairly significant progress with the Department of National Defense in the last few weeks in particular, under Cheryl's leadership, in advancing those discussions. They are moving, I think, as you know, towards a process to dispose of the Royal Roads lands, and had encouraged us some time ago to work closely, and this was our inclination in any event, to work closely with our neighboring First Nation communities, so with Esquimalt and Songhees. And we have concluded a framework agreement with the Songhees, and we have concluded one, I can tell you today, with Esquimalt as well. And this looks at a future here on this side of sharing these lands. And I think there's just an incredible opportunity for us to do something which will be noticed across the country, an incredible partnership between a post-secondary institution and Indigenous communities moving forward in a true spirit of reconciliation. But there's a lot more work to do on this. We are dealing with the federal bureaucracy, so we will see how far we go and what progress we make, but we will keep you updated on that work as well. And final comment before I turn it over to Bonnie, I guess, is going to be next. But just a final comment. I've been amazed, and again want to thank faculty who've sent me copies of books and articles that they've either written or co-authored, or work that they admire. I've just been amazed at the quality and the depth of the research here. It is incredible. It's incredible what's going on at this university. And I'm not going to single out particular announcements, but you will have seen them over the last few weeks and months. We've just had some incredible successes on the research front. And whether it's working on climate adaptation, on healthy soils, on conflict and peace building, education and technology, remarkable stuff going on in business and tourism, all across the piece. There is incredible work going on. And our job, obviously, is to tell those stories and really to tell them in a very compelling way so that people know what's going on here. This is not only because we obviously want to build profile and brand, but it's because we want people to know the incredible things that are happening here and to get the recognition and the support for that particular work. So our research is really finding points of leverage, for key policy initiatives and interventions which will really make a difference. And this is so important because if you think about the moment we find ourselves in, we have so many challenges, global challenges, and they all seem to be converging at the same time. You look at what's happening with our most existential challenge, and that's the environment. I mean, that report that was out a few days ago saying that, Canada's warming at twice the rate of other places is just truly terrifying. There'll be no Arctic ice, in a few decades. I mean, it's just remarkable what's happening and the pace at which it's happening. So we've got that crisis. We've got a serious political crisis, I think, you've seen across the world manifesting itself in different ways with this sort of rise of populism, this sort of ultra-nationalism which seems to be developing and the breaking down of multilateral institutions and processes and huge sort of partisanship. I mean, just watching what's happening in Britain, just, it's like watching a national suicide almost. I mean, it's remarkable. And you've seen what's happened in Brazil recently and some troubling moves, of course, south of the border and in Eastern Europe and places like that. While we're in the middle of a long, sustained economic boom, that's going to come to an end at some point. We know that. And what's that next financial crisis going to look like? So I don't want to make you all depressed. But it points to the incredible importance of the work that's going on here, because we have people who are looking at all of these issues, and we do it in a very applied way. So we're not the researchers who will spend 30 years in the lab and then come up with something. We are the people who will look at these problems and think about what are the key interventions that we could make right now, which would start making a difference here. And so, that's why I'm so proud to be at this place, because I can feel it. I can feel that we are making a difference and we are seized of the challenges and the opportunities ahead. So I will leave my opening comments there, and I'm going to ask Bonnie to come up and just talk a little bit about installation, and then we will move on to the operating plan. So thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Philip, and good morning to everyone, including those online out there. I have the great pleasure this morning of sharing some fun, exciting news regarding the upcoming celebrations and official installation ceremony for Dr. Steenkamp in June. Many of you had the opportunity, as Philip mentioned, to meet him at the breakfasts, his walkabouts when he does get out from the castle. But the installation ceremony formally recognizes and welcomes Dr. Steenkamp into the Royal Roads University community. So we have 3 events currently underway to celebrate that activity. The first you'll hear about soon will be on June 12th. There will be a staff barbecue on campus where you will all be invited. No better place to start than at home to celebrate. And you'll be hearing more information about the timing of that and some of the details in the coming weeks. 6 days after that, on June 18th, the official installation ceremony for Dr. Steenkamp will occur at the afternoon convocation ceremony at the Royal Theatre in downtown Victoria. Attending that event will be invited guests, other universities, First Nations, local community dignitaries, government dignitaries. And then following that event, those installation guests will be proceeding to the Royal BC Museum for a reception in the First Peoples Gallery. Installation really is, beyond the formal ceremony, is an opportunity to transition us from that getting acquainted phase that you've been sharing with us, that first 100 days, to getting down to business. And an opportunity for, which we've heard you're already doing, and an opportunity for Royal Roads to really celebrate what we value and what's unique about us, and Philip's vision, shared vision, as we work through this next exercise, and values for where we move into the future. So again, my great pleasure to share that information with you, and look forward to seeing everyone on June 12th. Keep your eyes open for more information.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Bonnie. I'm looking forward to June. It's going to be a busy month. One thing you will see in June is there's going to be new regalia. You know these events are very Harry Potter-esque, right? But there's going to be new regalia for me and for the Chancellor. And I really want to thank Asma again and others who've been working with a very prominent Coast Salish artist on the new regalia, and we're honored to have these designs, and you will see them soon. Again, I think it's just a step in our journey together with Indigenous communities. Bonnie mentioned the barbecue. I'm really looking forward to that. I understand it used to have a barbecue, and it's a tradition I'm looking forward to reinstating. And then, of course, a tradition I'm really looking forward to reinstating is pub night tonight. So please come. I think we've been a bit overwhelmed by the response in numbers. So be patient if you can't get to the bar quickly, but we will make sure everybody does get served. So I'm going to ask Cheryl, I believe this is the right order of events, Cheryl to come up and give about a 10-minute presentation on the operating plan. Again, you will have seen last week, Board of Governors, I moved the operating plan discussion to the open session of the Board of Governors. We will do that consistently in the future. And I encourage and thank you for those of you who did attend that session. We moved it to another venue to accommodate attendance. But in future, you're all welcome to come and hear budget discussions when we present the operating plan to the board. We're also looking at live streaming Board of Governors meetings, because I know not everybody can attend. It's not necessarily a convenient time. So we will be live streaming the open sessions of Board of Government meetings as well. And it's an important thing to pay attention to, what's happening at the board. So thank you. So Cheryl, please. Thanks. I will go and sit down.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to those online. I will stick to the script so that we can get through this quickly, and I want to make sure that we have some time for questions as well. And Philip's covered some of this, so I will try not to repeat. But it is an exciting time, and I think it's important to understand that when we develop the operating plan, we do that within the context of an integrated planning framework. So we are right in the middle of the existing 5-year plan in 2019-20, but you can also see that I feel very privileged to have the honor to be able to actually consolidate all the amazing plans that all of you have worked on, and that really is then rolled up into the operating plan. And the operating plan allows us to then talk about what are the initiatives and the deliverables for the upcoming year, the year that we're actually currently in, the fiscal year. And what are the resources required to be able to support that, so that we are in fact able to meet those deliverables. As Philip had mentioned, when we went to the board, we talked about looking at both the internal and external environments, and from there, that helped to develop what we believed were important priorities for the upcoming year. We've talked about the visioning exercise, and of course, we'll have an opportunity to actually participate this morning in that. The other thing that I think was important in recognizing was the central work that the learning, teaching, and research model has in terms of the university and the reflection of its core values. The learning, teaching, and research model was reviewed in 2000 and updated in 2018, and so we look forward to, in 2019, seeing the implementation and publication of the newly revised LTRM. I'll talk a little bit about this in terms of the resources that we've put in the budget for the job evaluation and salary review, but in the 5-year business plan, we committed to remaining competitive in our current labor market, and by doing the job evaluation refresh and corresponding business benchmarking study, this work will continue into 2019-20. And this is for the employees that are currently outside of the collective bargaining agreements. And it really is an investment, a key investment to our current workforce. And I think sends an extremely important message to all of you, and as Philip said, the hard and amazing work that each and every one of you give us every day. And there's a number of investments that I'll talk about when we get into the capital plan as well that I think is important for us to recognize that investment within our university. The ERM system, so in recognition of the tools that we use in order to ensure that we have the financial systems and the information systems necessary to do our work in order to be able to have more streamlined processes, reporting, as well as to enhance the service to our students, staff, and faculty. We will be looking at the business cases going forward to the board in June to help to enhance and implement the student information system as well as some of our core financial systems. So just more relevant tools today to be able to help do the work more streamlined and more efficiently. And I think that we'll be able to see those efficiencies not only in how we deliver but also in the day-to-day work that we do. The board is at the retreat in January. We were able to take to them the enterprise risk management framework. The board is interested in understanding how we manage risks, how we anticipate what those risks are, unique to the university. And so we will be implementing the risk management framework and bringing that back to the board as well in 1920. I wish we could have the installation in the Learning and Teaching Auditorium, but we haven't got that far in the construction. It was approved by the board in December of 2018. Construction is moving along. You won't see a lot on the outside because most of that work is currently happening in the inside. But we do anticipate that the targeted completion date is for late, third quarter, around September 2020. So that will give us an amazing opportunity to be able to host events here on the campus, to be able to have our convocation and many of the events that we have to take off-site now. It has a capacity of just over 500, and so, I think to take a pool, a decommissioned pool, and turn it into an amazing space, I think that we can all utilize is very exciting for us. You'll see, I'll just say now, the total estimated cost is $15.2 million, and we have $9 million planned this year. So you can see that the bulk of the work that's being done will be this year, and then hopefully on track for 2020. And then, of course, it's always important that we look at our strategies, particularly the concentration in 1920 will be around research, internationalization, and Indigenous engagement. It's important work going to be underway in 1920. And certainly supports the strategic objectives of the university to strengthen and diversify our revenue base through that strategic growth. And I'll talk about where the growth is happening in terms of our enrollment and how that has an impact on our revenues. And of course, more importantly, being that university of choice for the relevant applied and professional education and research that we produce here. So, by the numbers, very quickly, our student FTEs, 3,292. That's a significant increase. It's a 15% increase over our current 18-19 forecast, so that adds about 417 FTEs. Related to that is the revenues. Obviously, if our enrollments are going to increase, that will create an increase in our revenues. They're projected to rise to $77.6 million. And when you extract the expenses of $75.8 million, that leaves a net operating income of about $1.8 million. It's important that under the Budget Transparency Act that we do not have a deficit budget. We are not allowed to under the Act. And we also have a directive from the board that we maintain a revenue cost ratio of 97 to 95 to 5%. So the 97.7% cost revenue ratio is consistent and within that ratio. So we are able to be able to, we believe, achieve the initiatives that we hope to complete in 1920 in a financially responsible manner. And so we took that to the board on Friday, and they approved that budget. The important thing to note, I think, which is really critical recognition that we had discussions with the board with starting really, I think, in the last, the current budget and carried on to the this year's budget, is within that expense envelope of $75.8 million are strategic operating investments. Those are over and above what I'll say sort of keeping the lights on. That $825,000 represents the need for us to ensure that we look at certain initiatives, maybe one time in nature, but I think more important, they're very forward-looking. So when we look at developing program development, we need to have some money today. We need that funding today to be able to start that work so that down the road we're able to actually implement that. So that program development is important. There's also technology improvements that go over and above the regular operating funds that we require. So that's quite unique to most organizations. I think it speaks to the uniqueness of the university in terms of how we believe that this is an important investment, and we continue to encourage that we have that in the budget, and you can see it there again this year. And that's in addition to the major capital initiatives that we have. There we go, sorry. The $18.5 million. That's $8 million over what we had actually anticipated 6 months ago when we delivered the 5-year business plan. So one may ask the question, how could things change so quickly? What it is it's really a result of the forecasting and being able to better understand the speed in which that we are working towards the large major capital projects like the Learning and Teaching Auditorium. But there's also a significant increase in our technology. And again, I think what I'm proud to be able to tell you today is we continue to invest in bricks and mortar, but we also are investing in what I say clicks. So it's not just about the bricks, it's about the clicks as well. And when you are an online university, when we have the ability through technology to be able to reach out, it's important that we invest in both the technology as well as the infrastructure. So it's a very balanced capital program in the sense that we recognize that throughout the capital investments. Very quickly let me just quickly go through the revenue trends and then the expense trends and then a little bit on the capital. So as I mentioned, 417 FTE increase, and as a result of that, we have a revenue increase of $7.6 million. $6 million of that is directly attributed to the tuition and academic revenue that we will receive as a result of the increase in the enrollments. I echo Philip's remarks when I say I am really impressed and still remain impressed with the organization in terms of the due diligence around how we come up with those, understanding what the programs will be, what the market for those programs are, the enrollment numbers. It's a very inclusive, very collaborative, and very extensive process that we go to. So as a CFO, I have a great deal of comfort and confidence in the fact that we are putting forward enrollment numbers that are realistic and attainable. But at the same time, with confidence, I can go to the board and say, I think this is a realistic plan. And so the revenues reflect that. The increase in the student enrollments are mostly coming from the international student area. And to break that down even more, the Masters in Global Management is a significant part of that. So when you look at the $6 million increase in revenues, $5.2 million of that relates to the enrollments, the increased enrollments, and $800,000 relates to the 2% increase that we put into the tuition, the annual tuition and ancillary fees. That leaves $1.7 million increase in other revenues. Basically, that breaks down to we receive a provincial operating grant of about $1.5 million. That covers our general wage increases and, of course, the newly employee health tax that's been implemented. There's an increase in amortization, which is revenue that's just directly offset by amortization expense. And then that's offset by a slight decrease in our research revenue. It goes from about $2 million to about $1.8 million, and that again is offset by research expense. The research revenue varies depending on the activity and the availability of grants. So that's something that we don't control specifically through the budget, but we do ensure that we reflect what we believe is available through the grants and the level of research activity. So when one talks about revenue, we need to talk about expense. The expenses are increasing by $8 million, with just over $6.2 million related to salaries, benefits, and contracted services. So as I mentioned earlier, the investment in the workforce, the investment in the current work that goes on in the university is very important and is a major theme within the 1920 budget. If I can just give you a breakdown of that $6 million, it really is actually spread across 6 different areas. Those areas are benefit cost increases, the general wage and merit increases, job evaluation and compensation review, so we have the funding resources reflected in the budget. We also hope that through the strategy around job evaluation and compensation review that we will lessen the impact of vacancies. Last year was the highest number as a percentage of vacancies. And that ability to not only attract but retain employees and faculty is extremely important. And so where we would normally have a vacancy rate of 3%, it actually rose to 6.6% last year. So it's important that we look at investing within the organization. I think that is apparent when we look at 9% out of the 12% of the expenditure increase is all related to salaries, benefits, and contracted services. So we believe that that will actually bring that vacancy back down to a normalized rate. And of course, what that does is that requires that we add that funding back into the salaries, because of course vacancies actually create a savings. So we need to move that back in. And then there's also the fifth area is additional costs associated with 4 new positions and 2 new temporary positions. And as well, our contracted services, which is part of what we consider to be salaries, benefits, and contracted services all together in the delivery of our services, that is projected to increase by $800,000, mainly due to, again, with the increased programs, the increased enrollments, and of course we need to ensure that we've got the ability to be able to deliver on those. So that is a reflection of the increase in programs and enrollments. On the non-labor front, it's about a $900,000 increase, and the majority of the non-labor increases are related to instructional and program delivery costs. That includes program event costs, field trips, program and teaching supplies, honorariums. Again, you start to see that when we look at this, we have to really understand if we're increasing revenues, if we're increasing delivery, we have to look at the associated expenses and ensure that we have the resources to be able to deal with that increase. We do have an increase in our marketing costs of about $300,000, and again, that relates to the commission costs associated with the increase in the international enrollments. So that is just a direct result of what we're seeing in increased enrollments in the international side. And our non-labor costs, that would include things like utilities, supplies, grounds and gardens. We are showing an increase of about 2%, and that would be in line with our inflation. As I mentioned, there's an additional $825,000 associated with operating investments over and above the expenses that I just showed you. $300,000, just over $300,000 related to the strategic planning investments. So we will continue to look at our long-term planning as we look at what the next 25 years will look like. It's the 25th anniversary of the university in 2020, so this is a perfect time to be able to not only reflect on the last 25 years, but where are we going in the next 25 years. I mentioned about new academic program development. We want to always be able to look at and reflect and enhance what our offerings in both our graduate and undergraduate programs, so we have money set aside for that in the budget. And then on the technology plan, always being aware of the need to plan in the case of a disaster. So we have risk reduction and disaster recovery in there, as well as the business process improvements that we'll need to be able to do, particularly in the as we look at changing out our information system, or certainly refreshing our information system as well as our core business functions. And then finally, on the capital plan, as I mentioned, we have $18.5 million, 9.2 is related to the Learning and Teaching Auditorium. We will be going to the board to talk about the potential for a student accommodation initiative. That would include looking at our current accommodation and how we can refresh that, as well as the potential for a new building as well. So that's an exciting opportunity that we'll have a chance to discuss with the board. There's a number of horizontal and electrical infrastructure. You see it around the campus now, all of that digging that's going on, a lot of that is related to the aging infrastructure that we have. So we're laying out new conduit, we're ensuring that we have the proper infrastructure below ground to be able to support electrical, IT, as well as water services. And then, as I mentioned, $3.2 million of our enterprise IT systems, and $2 million of that $3.2 million does relate to our enterprise resource program, our SIS in Business World, and also a refresh and a new look at our digital communication platform, which includes the website. So, we're not done yet, though. Obviously, it was important for those of you that weren't able to join us at the board to have an indication of what the next year looks like. I hope I've helped you with that understanding. But we also will be reaching out to budget holders. April 23rd is an opportunity to sit down with the budget holders so that they understand specifically the budgets that they have coming out of the 1920 plan, so that they can begin their planning and implementation. Kathy MacArthur and her team will be preparing the budget packages to go out in the next couple of weeks, and we'll continue that conversation. It's exciting. I am very proud of the budget that we're putting forward this year. I hope everybody feels the excitement in the air, because I think there's lots to be done, but I think we can do it together. So thank you very much.
So we got a few minutes here for questions, if there are any. Of course, there's also the opportunity to ask questions offline and at some of these meetings coming up, but we do have some time here. I just do want to thank Cheryl and her team for the remarkable effort they put into developing this operating plan. I know that this is now April 1's your new year, right? Mm-hmm. Your fiscal new year, and I know they celebrated, and deservedly so. So any questions or comments? Well, has Cheryl done such a remarkably good job?
Job is done.
Okay, well, I'm sure there's an opportunity. If you do have questions, you can email as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Which would be fantastic. But again, as you can see, very good, very solid budget this year. And I would point out that the major investments we're making are in people, through a whole variety of mechanisms. And that is hugely important. The board is very concerned about our ability to attract and retain good people. So we are making investments in people, and that's what's critical. I know you would all love to work here for free, but I know that's not possible. I know we have to pay you something, but we're hoping that through the job evaluation benchmarking study, that we can make more investments in compensation to recognize the remarkable work that people do. So thanks, Cheryl. Thank you. Okay, to keep us on time, I'm not going to go on too long before I hand it over to Pedro and to Jennifer. Jennifer first, I guess, is it? You first, okay. You going to keep your comment short, Pedro? Pedro told me it's cultural, you just... So just in terms of the vision, we mentioned this a number of times, but with the 25th anniversary coming up, I think it's just the perfect opportunity for us to ask the question, where do we want to be in another 25 years? Now, you might look at that operating plan presentation and say, hey, this looks pretty good. Why don't we just stay where we are? We're in a good lane. We seem to be producing revenue, and let's continue. I can tell you that will not work for us. If we keep status quo, that model will not be sustainable over time. This university has had a history of being entrepreneurial. And it really just struck me the other day in talking to faculty that, all along the way it's looked for the opportunity, it's looked for the trend, it's responded. So that's what's so key for us. So the question for me is, where do we go from here? Where do we want to be in 25 years' time? I did mention in my opening comments we've got these converging global crises. I think there's a huge need for us to think about that and think about how we respond to that. We are, in many ways, doing that already, but can we step up even more to respond to those challenges? And then we have to be realistic about what's happening in the external environment as well. So what was a unique offering at Royal Roads in 1995 is no longer a unique offering. A number of universities have moved into our space, into online and blended learning. You've seen massive explosion of online and blended offerings from some of the most prestigious universities out there, and a lot of people looking at the 18 to 24-year-old cohort, setting the West Shore aside, which is a bit of an anomaly, but see that cohort is declining. So increasingly they are targeting adult learners, and in particular mid-career professionals, in particular professional master's degrees. This is our turf, right? So what are we going to do about that? Or we just assume that that demand will always be there? You saw in those numbers, and Cheryl mentioned it, the growth in our revenue is largely as a result of international increases in international enrollment. So are we beginning to see the softening of domestic demand? And if we are, what does that mean, and what do we need to do in order to respond? Our model is a pretty high-cost model, but it's a high-touch model as well. So in the universe out there of sort of post-secondary offerings, where do we fit, and how are we going to respond to these challenges? So there's a really critical set of questions, and that's why I wanted to launch this visioning process. That's why I wanted to do it quickly, because you could spend forever analyzing this stuff. But as Bonnie mentioned, my installation's June 18th. I want to be able to talk in a compelling way about the vision of this university on June 18th. But I want to do it in a way that's informed by you, right? I've seen presidents go to the installations, and the staff and faculty are shocked and surprised at what they hear. I've got my own ideas, and I will be talking about some of my own ideas, but my own ideas will only work and will only be enriched by all of yours. So I'm hoping, with that June deadline coming up, that we can say something to the broader community, something which will be a really compelling story about Royal Roads and the future of Royal Roads and where we're going. What is our guiding star going to be? How are we going to adapt? How are we going to embrace the challenges that are coming up and provide people with the skills they'll need to thrive in an increasingly disruptive world? So that's the kind of compulsion to work on this. I want to thank Pedro for agreeing to be executive lead. I want to thank the people who've agreed to sit on the steering committee. You'll hear a little more about them in a moment. And we're going to take the first opportunity today really to engage the broader community. Not in a definitive discussion. I don't imagine that at 12 o'clock we're going to have the vision figured out for the university. This is just a very preliminary start, and there'll be many, many opportunities for engagement. So Pedro, I'll hand it over to you and to Jennifer. Thank you.
I've got my marching orders. Do it quickly. Hello, everybody. I'm truly delighted to be here with you and everybody who has been helping us, working with us on getting this ready. Can we go? You heard already from Philip what the purpose is, and this is a tremendous opportunity. Of course, it is challenging because we want to do a good job, something that is meaningful and useful, but it's not a final product. It's really launching a process of constantly thinking about the future and wondering who we want to be and how we want the university to look like into the future. And I do want to thank Philip for inviting us to be part of this and opening the space, particularly with these two principles, inviting us to think big, which I think at this university is a dangerous invitation. And secondly, what we want is really a guiding star. What we want is a general, constant dialogue of what is it that we want the university to look like in the future. So let me go to the next slide, which might be very useful for us, and one more, the next one. It might be easier actually to define what we want to do in terms of what it is not, right? Critical. We are not putting together a 25-year business plan. This is not about KPIs and FTEs and targets. This is not about how many programs and how many specializations. It's a much larger conversation about the future and what kind of institution we want to be as we move forward. This is not a scientific project where we want to predict the future for the next 25 years. That would take us way more than 3 months, probably the whole 25 years, and not be successful. The purpose is not to simply recraft the vision statement. Yeah, we have a vision statement, and once we're done with this exercise, it will give us an opportunity to go back to it and reflect. Does it still apply? Do we need to tweak it? Do we need a brand new one? But that will follow down the road. So the purpose of this exercise is not a new vision statement. And finally, it is not to provide a rigid framework for decision making. It's a wide and flexible framework that is informed by an open dialogue and reflection about what we want the university to be in the future. Can we go to the next slide, please? So steering committee, I've been honored to be able to invite representatives from different stakeholders within the university to help us through this exciting project. And I'm going to mention their names because you need to know who they are. And I'm going to ask you to stand up because this is an important project and I want to thank you again through public recognition. Jennifer Wallinga. So we have 6 faculty members. Jennifer Wallinga, Jean Slick, Amy Zidolka, Rob Middleman, Runa Das, and I have a 6th spot for another faculty member and I'm in an active search for that. So out of today, if you want to be part of this, send me an email. Thank you. Staff, we actually have Isabel Cordova von Specht, Asma Antoine, Rhonda White, Paul Kornica, and Susan Gee. You're here, most of you. Thank you again for being part of this process. We have 2 associate faculty, Alejandra Huerta from the School of Tourism and Hospitality Management. Thank you, Ale. And Carrie Spencer from the School of Education and Technology. Carrie is probably not here. She teaches as an associate faculty, and you might recall her. She's been part of the community for many, many years. Students, Alexandra Demers from the BA in Global Tourism Management will be here making sure that we constantly think about the needs of the undergraduate students. And Malavika Menon. Malavika, you're here, a student from the MGM. Thank you again for spending your time with us, making sure that we're always thinking about the needs of the graduate level students as well. We have 2 alum. We have Michael Lickers, you might remember him, graduated from the MA Leadership and the DSOC side. He's going to be joining us mostly from Calgary. And Jas Bambra, who I spoke with her an hour earlier today to guarantee secure that I could announce her name, from the MGM. Stuart Rothney, he's someone we've approached to help us to facilitate some of the sessions. He's external to the university, so a fresh, non-biased perspective will help us very much in facilitating the sessions. Lisa, are you around here? Oh, there you are. Lisa will be supporting the whole process as project manager, and Debbie and I will be making sure that we follow up as we move forward. We'll launch it today. We're gonna warm up the environment by letting you know what it is and invite you to be part of this series of consultation process, and there will be many internally with associate faculty, with students, with alum, and also we will be reaching out to members of the external community, looking forward to actually having a written report by June the 30th that will be shared with everybody. So the results of this process will be shared with everybody for further discussion and consideration. And of course, we will be having an ongoing communications plan. This is not a single project that will end in June the 30th. It's really the launch of a continuous series of frequent dialogues and discussion about the future of the university. So, to start opening conversation, we created a new email address. Feel free to send any questions to this email address. We'll put it on, make it available for all of you if you can write it down, or send me an email. This will go to all the members of the steering committee, right? So everything you send us to this will be read by all the members of the steering committee. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're gonna have fun, and we don't have a lot of time, but we'll have a lot of fun. So, with the support of a lot of people within the university, we put together a video. The video is about 4 minutes long. And I need you to pay attention to the video because I'm gonna be asking you questions at the end of the video and giving away prizes. So that you understand it, the videos actually have key global and Canadian events that have happened since about the time when the university was created to this point of time. Are you with me? Philip spoke about a community of entrepreneurs. So we're including key events in the world and in Canada that have happened since the university was created, and mix with them some pictures of some activities and events that we've hosted through these last 25 years. There are a million pictures. It was very difficult to choose just a few of them. And at the end, we've included a few examples of some of the mega trends, the forces that are happening right now around us that we need to reflect. How do we want to deal with them, right? Let's watch the video. And then I'm going to ask each table, I'm going to ask 2 questions. I'm going to ask each table to write down on the piece of paper that you have in front of you your answers. And as soon as you're done, raise your hand, and I'll go to you, and the first 2 tables to answer, I'll give them prizes. And then I'll pass it to Jennifer for the most important part of the discussion today. Thank you. Can we play the video? So here's the first question. Well, let's do this very quickly. Please answer by team and write the answers on the piece of paper, right? And there are going to be prizes to the teams that answer the fastest. And I'm going to ask you the two questions before I take answers. The first one is, and I got your attention, I'm loving this. The first one is, identify 3 world events included on the video that actually Royal Roads University responded to. Write it down, Jean. Write it down. I'm going to give you the second question before I take your hands. The second question for you. Excellent. Here's the second question, and I'll take your answers after the second question. Identify 3 individuals or group of individuals that actually have led some initiatives as portrayed on the video. People or groups of people. Okay, I'm gonna hate me for interrupting your conversation. I apologize for interrupting your conversation, but you see the point that we're trying to make here? Philip described us, although he's been with us for only 100 years, it didn't take him long to describe us as a group of entrepreneurs, right? So this is an example of that. I'm gonna go to Jean's table because she was jumping on her chair and Go ahead. Here's a mic.
Wait.
The world events that Royal Roads responded to were the internet through our online learning, the Berlin Wall through peace and conflict studies, which we used to be called, and Kyoto through MEM. And 3 individuals, groups that led new initiatives. Steve Grundy was part of creating Royal Roads University. Robin and I were part of the launch of the DEM program, and Pedro was part of the launch of the MGM program.
Oh, thank you for that. Excellent. I saw hands on that side of the room. Is there a table who wants to answer? Mike, can you pass the microphone, please? Go ahead.
Cool. We have kind of 2 parts to ours. We also had the Kyoto Accord, responding with Stop Apartheid and Y2K. And for the second question, we had our very own Asma at this table. We also had Steve Grundy and then Alan Cahoon.
Excellent. Steve Grundy was in at least 3 pictures, so I would be surprised if you didn't.
And I just want
mention
to also acknowledge the Heron People Circle, who have paid and contributed to Royal Roads University community to understanding the history of Indigenous people.
Where are you, Asma? I can't see you. Oh, I'm that. Excellent. Thank you so much. Let's do a third final table. Is there any table on that end of the room? Tony, your table. No. Yes.
Test.
Hi. We had, for question number 1, aging and diverse population. Number 2, internet. And number 3, residential schools.
Yep.
And for number 2 question, we had the Diversity and Action Group. Diversity Action Group. Our international team and CTED.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So this visioning exercise is not something new. It's really to remind us that we have the ability to actually do this. We just need to do it in a more methodical way, in an inclusive manner. So this is what we're launching today. Thank you for watching the video, but we're going to continue to have fun. And also I'm now going to pass it to Jennifer.
Thanks, everybody. I think we should give a big hand to Debbie Dupuy because she was responsible for that video in like an hour. And, you know, I would have had you down on the lagoon in boats and doing backflips here up the lawn and building human pyramids, but I got a bit held back or reined in from all those activities. And so instead we're at these tables, and I noticed packed house today, by the way, right? Love it. And if you can get involved at the tables, it doesn't matter if you're sitting at the table, you can participate at a table, you know, leaning over. It's like, has anybody ever played Dutch Blitz? It gets quite physical and active. There are only 2 markers on those tables, so I don't want you wrestling for those. But I do encourage you to keep writing on the big paper that's provided there and thinking about these trends. So first of all, we're going to just reflect on further on the trends that we've identified, and of course there are others. So if other things come up for you, bring it up at your table, write them down, add them to the paper. And then we're asking you to really consider and discuss, and while you're discussing, take notes, draw, whatever turns your crank, really, and put everything you can onto that paper, because that's our record of the discussion that's happening, right? And we want to capture as much as we can today. So what do these mean for Royal Roads? What do these trends mean? And the ones we identified in the video haven't stopped, right? The internet is still evolving and changing. What do these trends really mean for us? And then what do you think, how should we be dealing with them as an institution, as Royal Roads, as a community? How should we be responding to them? What do you envision for us going into the future over the next 25 years? You can draw, you can write. Some of you are thinking and talking. Make sure that those concepts are captured on the paper, and then we'll be sharing. We'll have some time at the end where we can hear some of the ideas as well.
Given the length of the list, should we just choose 2 of them?
That sounds like a good idea. I think that's on the next slide, actually, Pedro. So go for it. So focus on a couple, and yeah, have some fun. Get active and try and capture as much as you can on those pieces of paper. Really imagine how we need to be, what we need to look like as an institution. Ready? Go. If you could just wrap up your conversations. Thank you. Excellent. We just want to reach out now and ask you to share, just have a sampling of a few of the tables, to share a couple of highlights from their posters. But we want to let you know that we're collecting the posters, and I hope I'm not volunteering Rhonda for a whole lot of work, but the idea was that these would be pulled together and then visually represented in a big map, right? Something that we can keep and refer to and remember, and see all of our ideas captured within in a beautiful way, like Royal Roads likes to do. I want to just thank the Media Tech team, because they're all here today, I think, aren't they? Yeah. Russ and Mike, Dan, Brian, Trevor, Case. Am I missing anybody? Tony. And Tony! He's embedded in a table over there. So thank you so much, because I know it's just rare that we have you all in one room. You're usually scattered across the whole campus, doing the work of absolute heroes, really holding us all together and telling our stories. So thank you for all your great work. And next, we'd just like to hear just a couple of tables, maybe 3, if we could have people volunteer to share some of the highlights. We saw a lot of energy and inspiration, and I know everybody worked so hard. It's hard to feel that some days, right? But I think that was a really beautiful energy flowing across the room today. So anybody like to share what's going on at their table? Over there. Mike. Oh, Mike's got someone over here. Great.
Hi there. We are not exactly a table. Niels Agargupta, School of Leadership Studies. So we came up with the dramatic, if not very perhaps too obvious conclusion that all of these 11 trends require relationship, complexity, collaboration, and it's about how we work together. It's not just about the content, and part of what we were thinking about is that this university actually prepares people to engage in the processes and ways of thinking for jobs that don't yet exist in our society. And that expertise that we do have is actually about convening people so that we can actually have values-based conversations. And perhaps we need to think about this university as a think, and as Hilary Bradbury says, a think and do tank, so that in fact our role is actually about teaching process, right? We don't have all the expertise for all of these different pieces, but we sure do know how to communicate when we actually allow ourselves to do that. Anything else? Oh, right, so no action without heart and change, and this has to be about actually doing something, and that takes courage. Right? Have I got everything? Okay. On to the next group.
Thank you. Thank you. Tony.
Oh, test.
Robin.
Whatever, Steve. So our table had a wild and dynamic conversation about many things, including the growing role of artificial intelligence and its influence. You know, is education going to become obsolete as it becomes possible for AI to fulfill that role? Looking at social injustice issues and wealth inequalities, looking at disciplines and teaching being obsolete. So anyway, that all circled around, and climate change being another huge topic. So we were sort of circling around that and came up with Royal Roads as a leadership hub for social adaptation, because all of these things are going to require adaptation, whether it's forced migration, whether it's, you know, dealing with the impacts of climate change, dealing with this, you know, this move towards AI. So Royal Roads as a hub for that, and trying to imagine what a learning and teaching research model would look like for 2050 in that context.
Thank you. Links so beautifully with the idea of convening again, right? And bringing people together to solve these challenges, being that leadership hub. Love it. And I love that you're coming up with the metaphors as well in your language of heart and hub. This is a vision, right? You have to be able to see it and imagine it. Another one?
Jen, the online crew has been extremely busy.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Good reminder. How about we go to the online crew?
Oh, well, we've had quite a bit of discussion on our online Padlet, and thank you to our live stream participants. Here's some of the things they had to say.
How many people online?
We had a maximum of 90. We're sitting around 80 right now. So we set up a Padlet, and people were able to comment on the questions, just like everyone else in the room. And here's some of the things they had to say. We need to continue to be reactive and nimble, not to be bogged down with lengthy approval processes. How can we move forward quickly when opportunities arise, such as a new program, an international opportunity, or a trend initiative? Other comments talked about having a chance to teach to our students thriving in the workplace, especially in the gig economy, and how the labor market shift equals an opportunity to provide timely training. Another commenter jumped on that. Good point. Ties in with innovation and one of our core values, creativity. And just on and on. There was comments about diversity and how we can become a more diverse workplace in order to then encourage a more diverse student body. Lots of interesting information, and we will pass on these comments from the Padlet to the Visioning Committee.
Excellent, yeah, and thank you for highlighting that. CTED has really supported us through this process as well by facilitating the online engagement and providing the Padlet where people can, and many of you have seen Padlet, where people can upload their comments onto a shared screen, and we could probably even pull it up and have a look at that as well. Just trying to pull as many ideas as possible, and lovely to see creativity happening online, right? Even on the Padlet, people elaborating on each other's ideas and building on the brilliance that's in the room, and that's why we bring people together, right? And
we have another table here.
Okay, and then we'll probably stop there because I know we still have a couple of other Thanks. Thank you. Tony.
Yes, after this?
Awesome.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you. So we tackled social change, and we talked about things like LGBTQ rights and suggestions like perhaps we need gender-inclusive washrooms on campus. We also talked about changing demographics of the West Shore, so responding to that in the next few decades, particularly looking at years 1 and 2, looking at issues of affordability and access to education, and also taking a role in developing more of a sense of community within the West Shore and really becoming a hub for the community, making Royal Roads more like a village, so a multi-use facility for our community.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andrea. Great to see you. And so again, you start seeing these common themes. I really do think we start to share a brain here, okay? Common language, common themes. All right, so next we have Pedro, who's going to talk through the next steps so that you have assurance that this won't be lost. Okay, thank you.
Do you want to stay with me, Jennifer?
I don't think I need to.
We can do this as a... Next steps. And I can think back about that final comment. We're gonna collect what you wrote and what we have online, and we're gonna add that as part of the reflection process. But there will be many, many other opportunities for you to engage. This was just a warm-up. Probably we triggered already many ideas. We don't want you to forget about them. Bring them to the different fora that we're gonna be creating for further discussion. This is an exciting process. As you know, we created an email address that I've given you. Use it. We're looking forward to your feedback on content and process. The consultations will run for the next 90 days, and we hope to have a report, which will potentially be a short document summarizing what we've been hearing by June the 30th, and then we'll be communicating with different stakeholders, starting with you as of that moment through an active communication strategy. Let me specifically say thank you to Jennifer Wallinga, to Jean Sleek, to Michael Lickers, to Alejandra, because they were the ones that actually in a very short period of time got together to think about today's dynamic with the feedback of all the steering committee. So thank you for your quick response and your creativity. Much appreciated. On the members of the steering committee, I forgot to mention Tim Kituri. Tim, your value and your contributions are much appreciated. My apologies for, we play squash together. He's going to kill me on the court next time we play together. And finally, we've given you just an idea of potential topics to discuss. I don't know if you noticed that at the bottom it said others. I'm sure the list of others is much larger. And it's not all other topics that we need to think, it's also new ways of thinking about them. And through this process, I was really able to open my mind on Asma's and Michael Leaker's many comments that we not only need to be comfortable in reflecting about the topics that we might already know about, but there might be many new other topics and ways of learning that need to be included. Particularly, there's a very different and positive and appropriate ways of learning as we can learn from indigenous culture. Particularly storytelling. So I thought this was a great opportunity to actually invite Asma to come and join us and share with us an illustration of what that actually means, what it is. Thank you, Asma.
Thank you, everyone. I'm so excited about this process. I think it's fabulous. Thanks to everyone who's also online. And I'm going to give a shout out to Keel. Hi, Keel. He's working from Calgary, and I told him to log in. I had a great conversation this morning with Michael Lickers. What a great man. He's so powerful in his teachings and understandings, and it was a great opportunity to talk about protocol. Michael Lickers, he's Mohawk, he's from Six Nations, Doctor of Social Science alum. He's also taught some courses here on campus. He's worn multiple hats, which is fabulous. Thank you, Michael. One of the things we talked about protocol and storytelling. The idea to bring a vision together, you can't do it without storytelling. You talk about the past, the present, and the future. And the idea of vision, creating a vision, you cannot just start from the present. You have to remember what the past looked like. And in order to do that, and thinking about the indigenous knowledges, epistemologies, ontologies, pedagogies, all of those, how do you do that? And in all of that, I had thought that I'm a really big fan of protocol. If you don't do protocol, then you've made a mistake and you have to go back to the beginning and correct it. And I've broken protocols, and so if you break protocol, I'm the person to come and talk to, and I'll help you correct it, because once you make a mistake, you have to acknowledge that mistake in order to move on. So thinking about that, what does that mean for Rural Roads University? We practice protocol down on the water on National Indigenous Peoples Day with the canoes in the water. And for those who are new and don't know, I'm going to say it really quickly. You get in the canoe with your family. You have a family speaker. Everyone in that canoe has a role and responsibility. The skipper, who's guiding and giving direction, Pedro, in this visioning quest. You have the person who's the lightest, steering in the front, giving directions, Philip. And then you have the rest of us who are sitting in the middle, saying, what do you need to do? Well, in order to move forward, you all have to paddle together at the same time. And you're going in the same direction. But before you get into the canoe, you have to have a purpose and intention. What is your purpose and intention? And if you don't know, then you have to sit as a family and discuss what your purpose and intention is, because the family speaker who's going to stand up and tell what that means, Philip again, getting up to talk about purpose and intention is going to be speaking on behalf of all of us. So the complexities of all of that, and I think about just from an Indigenous perspective, I'm Nuu-chah-nulth, I'm also carrier. I also answer back to Lekwungen and Kosapsan families. And then I was talking to Michael, and he works in Calgary. He's Mohawk, he's Six Nations. And then we started breaking it all apart and thinking about the 635 other nations, the Métis and the Inuit, and then what are we going to do? That's a lot to try to figure out what visioning quest looks like. And through storytelling, if you sit down and you have patience and you have time, then the storytelling can go on for a long time. The purpose and intention, though, let's go back to that. For purpose and intention, so Philip would stand up in the canoe, state his purpose and intention, why he's coming to Lekwungen and Kosapsan traditional lands. We are here because, and then the families of those lands. It's that building that relationship through trust. They're going to trust that he's stating and speaking on behalf of all of us. And if he's doing it in the right, respectful way, then he's representing us. And then when he gets onto the land and he's working with Lekwungen and Kosapsan families, they know what to expect. They will host us in the appropriate way. Protocol begins with where we are learning, where we are working, where some of us are living in Lekwungen and Kosapsan families, traditional lands. And with that, then you go off, and then the community talks about how well we were treated on these lands. And I use that as a metaphor for Rural Roads University, because students still continue have to create that protocol. They have to write their purpose and intention, why they're coming into to Rural Roads University. And then us as a family have to create that opportunity to give back to those students. Then they go back to the communities and they're treated with respect. So talking with Michael this morning because he had a beautiful story about the North Star, and I'm not going to share that story because it's not mine, and he would do much better service to that story because it's his. But thinking about that, there's multiple stories, multiple diversities, multiple languages, and not all languages will translate as easily as we would like it to. And everyone has a different story that they're coming with, and a different purpose and intention of why you're all here. What is the main purpose and intention? So thinking about that, and I was thinking about the gift that Michael and I, in the conversation we had this morning, and it was really needed. I'm really recognizing what is needed for me to continue to get in that paddle and paddle with each and every one of you. So weaving Indigenous epistemologies is not as easy. Weaving Western theories and practices and all those things that were on that list and others, I can think of many others. And I had a great conversation at my table over there about the TRC and climate change, and the in-depth conversation we had over there. But I just wanted to acknowledge all of my relations is something that I sign off, and I mean all of my relations from north, south, east, west. Not talking about just local, nationally, but internationally as well. And with this, I leave you with the task that we all need to remember, but overall is we have to remember attention starts with I. Who are you? Where do you come from? What teachings do you bring? How does this all fit into the vision that we're hoping to give and provide for the next 25 years and possibly beyond? And I am so full of gratitude, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to close you off this afternoon. Yeah, it's 12:01 this afternoon. Thank you to the Visioning Steering Committee. We all thank you. We look forward to learning about you and how you are going to contribute to the creation of the vision. Thank you all. Klako, klako, choo.
Thanks, Asma. What a wonderful way to conclude the session today, and the importance of storytelling, and just that imagery of the canoe, although you did say I was the lightest one, so I was in the front of the canoe. So thank you for that, Asma. And you know, that thing about stories and storytelling is so powerful. There's a Nigerian author called Chimamanda Adichie. Some of you may know her. And she's got a TED Talk, if you get the chance to see it. It's called The Danger of a Single Story, and the importance of letting everybody tell their stories. And the challenge is how you weave all that together into a kind of coherent whole, but it's a wonderful challenge to have. So I want to thank you for all the stories you've created today on your tables. And we are beginning a journey. It might seem very loose at the beginning, and that's fine. You know, over time we'll begin to focus more and more as we build trust and comfort with each other as we proceed. So thank you all for coming out, and thank everybody online. I want to thank the media team, the production team. I want to thank Sophie. I want to thank Kim is over here, and many others who worked to make this event successful. Thank you, Pedro and Jennifer, and the subcommittee of the steering committee and the steering committee, and everybody here today. And you'll be hearing from us soon about other opportunities to engage. So again, thanks everybody, and I look forward to seeing many of you tonight as well. Thank you. Bye.